The City of Barrie could soon have another boutique library in the city's northwest. Following the success of the Holly branch and the lack of services in the northwest area, the council voted unanimously last week to explore setting up a library branch. This new library is aimed at serving undeserved areas, particularly youth, and reducing barriers to accessing services.
It affects the area of the city that Deputy Mayor represents as well. And the North End as a whole does have some services, the East Bayfield Rec Center, etc. But one of the things that is not directly attached to the library, but a notion or principle that we as a council endorsed, was trying to get services into unserviced areas, specifically those areas where we saw issues with at-risk youth and young people.
Currently, Barrie has three library branches. The main branch is located in downtown, the Painswick branch is in the southeast, and the Holly branch is in the southwest. The decision was made during the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee meeting. During the meeting, the Council also took steps to improve oversight of vendor billing by making audits an annual process to identify overcharges and ensure repayment. The recent audit found no major issues, but the city plans to continue monitoring and enhancing financial practices. In another matter, the Council discussed unresolved building permits. As per Canadian Supreme Court decision, municipalities are required to continuously monitor open building permits. However, they lack the legal authority to compel property owners to complete stalled construction projects. In response, Barrie is proactively managing permits and monitoring legal developments. While the city is effectively handling the issue, it awaits further guidance from the courts. Following is our coverage of the meeting.
I look at the success of the Holly branch, and we've talked about it a few times, and just looking at the proximity of where the libraries are situated right now, in the northwest section of Barrie is a little underserved in some of these services, and I really believe that it would be utilized. And I think it would be a success somewhere in that quadrant of our city, just with the residential there and not too many city services.
Great, thank you. And I did see Councillor Kungle. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. I'm in full support of that addition. I was actually hoping we might hear something, because I think in other passing conversations through other presentations, the Northwest was maybe referenced around the needs and opportunities. So I'm not sure if the library already has that in their capital. I think we also had conversations about knowing there was maybe a capital reserve or future planning. So happy to see if that conversation can come back. And I guess we'll look to the library. I know we've got members of the board here, but if they're able to bring it back in the timelines or with the budget presentations. But I will say, I think to Deputy Mayor Thomson's comments, I mean, we've seen the addition and the pop-ups that the library has been, I think, proactive in their strategic directions at bringing to different communities and neighborhoods. We had the addition in Ward 3 at the East Bayfield Community Centre with the little boutique lending library self-serve system that's in the main hall, and I think that's been received really well. So would absolutely, if we can bring something into the north of Barrie, would be exciting.
Great, thank you. And any other members of committee? You're good? Mayor Nuttall.
Yeah, thanks so much, and thank you for bringing this motion forward. Obviously, it affects the area of the city that Deputy Mayor represents as well, and the North End as a whole does have some services, the East Bayfield Rec Center, etc. But one of the things that is not directly attached to the library, but a notion or principle that we as a council endorsed, was trying to get services into unserviced areas, specifically those areas where we saw issues with at-risk youth and young people. And I think that it's safe to say that there are areas like that around this, and that this would be an excellent opportunity to provide library services to youth and young people specifically that wouldn't necessarily otherwise have access, one, but two, probably wouldn't get on a bus to go down to the downtown library. And, seeing the success over in your ward, Chair Harvey, the success over in Southeast Barrie, where, I was on council when we approved and built that library, I think it makes a lot of sense. And so it'd be neat to be able to look ahead 10 years from now and see if there's now other opportunities beyond just this to allow for the expansion of this service. But it's been a success to date, and I just want to thank the member for bringing it forward.
Great, thank you. Is there any members of non-committee? Councillor Corser.
I just wanted to lend my voice to this, although I'm not on the committee because I am a Northwest councillor. So I when I was knocking doors, there was a few people that were requesting library services in the northwest end of Barrie. So I think this is an excellent idea, and I thank the Deputy Mayor for bringing it forward.
Okay, thank you. I did see Councillor Kungle's hand up again, so I'll go back to you.
Thank you. Sorry, no, just just another kind of comment, because I know we can have open dialogue, but Mayor Nuttall was speaking about it, I think, to the point around community well-being, and on the topic of libraries. If you haven't read the book Palaces of the People, we talk, it explains why libraries are really important aspects of social infrastructure. And so not just having, the pop-ups, but having a permanent location and a storefront where people can actually, I think, visit a library and embrace all the pieces. I think the additions, I think, have been, economically mindful around trying to bring the transactionally, like return a book, borrow a book with a limited amount in some of our rec centers. But if people are questioning the why, would we ever consider or support or explore opening the doors to more infrastructure? I mean, that's a great reference that really talks a bit about well-being and libraries being a really important social infrastructure that sometimes is taken for granted when you've got other competing interests tied to financial investment, and sometimes are overlooked, but by far I think are really critical fabrics of our community.
Great, thank you. Any other non-members of committee? No? I do support this too. I know working with the CEO of the library that's sitting here in the audience today to get the Holly Branch going, and I think the success that it has shown, you literally just got to sit in the parking lot for 30 to 45 minutes at certain periods of the day to just sit back and watch the flow going through there, to see the success when you're able to build them in the community as opposed to having to jump on transit or have mom and dad drive you and drop you off. And also too, it was highlighted by one member that there is a specific reserve specifically for this type of thing when it comes to the capital side of the library. And obviously there would just be when you look at the grand scheme of things, a small impact to the tax levy on the operational side. And I know when the Holly Branch got opened up, some of the staff were able to be moved around from other branches to accommodate the budget that we were looking to do. So I do welcome the study, and I know it is definitely an underserviced area of the city, not only from library, but also too that they're quite a distance from even the closest community center. So I think this will definitely be a positive impact moving forward. So with that being said, I'll just wait a moment before I call the vote. And I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. So that's all of our items on the agenda for today. So I will now adjourn the meeting, and this concludes. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Gungle.
Sorry, I did have another item to discuss about the audit, if we're still on that, although I know we
Actually,
addressed
yes,
one
that's right
aspect.
too, because it was just an amendment to the audit. Yeah. My bad. Go ahead.
Thank you. And so I was happy to support that motion, but I did have a question of staff while it's been held. It was more on the aspect of, I think, the vendor accounts component. And I'm not sure through you, Chair Harvey, to CEO Prowse, unless I missed it. I mean, there are pieces in there I'm quite keen to hear back on what reviews are happening around some of the aspects tied to billing. And would that be something that would come back within the 2025 calendar year around change improvements, or when we see the internal audit reports with the recommendations, particularly where we see areas of improvement or investigation, do we call for another audit review, or is it more of a staff report back?
Through you, excuse me, through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Kungle. Councillor Kungle, I think what you're asking is what we do with that information. So Ms. McGregor's team did some excellent work, I thought, as a first time, and in fact came up with a creative way of funding it through a summer student to identify and review our vendors and what they're charging us versus the contracts. It's our intention and our hope that that now becomes an annual exercise. That information not just goes back to procurement, but it goes back to the home departments so they understand what they're being specifically billed versus what they contracted. Part of that process will be where the contracts allow, we will be approaching the vendors for repayment. So I would expect an ongoing report back on that because I expect that to be an annual exercise.
Thank you. And follow up for those that where we are successful with repayment, would that come through a different staff report back, or is that just sit within operations?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Kungle, I would expect probably Ms. McGregor may want to bring that back through her typical annual review. If not, we will find another mechanism to highlight it for council, but it will be an ongoing piece.
Okay, thank you, appreciated.
Great, thank you. Any other members of committee in relation to the report? Oh. Any non-members of committee? Oh, Councillor Corser.
Thank you for indulging me, Chair Harvey. I have a question. I guess it would be through you to Mr. Aranasundran. For the changes for the chief, it might not be, actually. It might be for Michelle Banfield. I'm not sure. I'll go through CAO. He might be able to sort this out. Regarding the changes in the building inspections, how there was section 4, page 4, section 26, the 2024 Ontario Supreme Court decision puts the onus on the municipalities to continuously monitor open building permit files and follow up with permit holders regarding the state of construction. And this is something new when I believe that it was passive previous. I'm just wondering, it seems like a significant change in workload in the building inspection department, but I didn't see any changes in build permit fees or requests for additional staff on that. And I was wondering how is building services accommodating these changes?
Councillor Corser, Paul Evans, our chief building official, is here. I'm sure he can answer that question for you. Mr. Evans?
So through Chair Harvey to Councillor Corser, that is a very good question. That case is still ongoing. So many municipalities are awaiting the outcome of that to see what direction we should be going. We'll be consulting with legal about that as well. But in the meantime, the City of Barrie is doing quite well with stale permits, and we do have a process in place where we do contact permit holders and applicants to see how they're doing with their permits. And our computer system actually does this automatically for newer permits. So the City of Barrie is doing quite well so far.
Thank you very much. That's all.
And Councillor Rietma.
Just following up on that question, thank you, Chair Harvey, to Mr. Evans. Is there a way to get people to finish their construction? We had a situation in Ward 1 where this house was under construction. It was a total mess for years and years and years. And I was just wondering, is there a way that we can sort of get people to finish their projects?
Through Chair Harvey, unfortunately, no. The Building Code Act does not provide that power to us. I would like to see that as well. All we can do is keep bugging them to keep going on it. But other than that, the Building Code Act does state that if construction has ceased for more than 1 year, then we can revoke a permit, but that's a very difficult process to go through. So we just try and keep communicating with the applicants to keep them going on it. But unfortunately, no, we don't have a process.
Great, thank you. Any other members? Before I call the final vote, I would like to thank Ms. McGregor and Ms. Lum for all their time that they spent not only on the 2 audits, but also in having a meeting ahead of this with myself, and I know they've done the same with the library too. And obviously, it's fairly detailed, didn't really bring out any red flags that would cause any concern for any of it. However, just like any other organization, there's always small pieces to improve, and I'm happy to see that there really wasn't any big red flags, and that there's a few things to tighten up moving forward, and it sounds like the library will also be working with your team on some of the recommendations that were included in the report. So I do look forward to a positive path forward on those recommendations. With that being said, I will call the final vote, the main motion as amended. All those in favor? And that passes. And now I'm really going to call the adjournment. No, good catch on that, Councillor Kungle. So I will call the adjournment. This concludes the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee. This meeting is adjourned.
That was the update from Finance and Responsible Governance Committee meeting. Thank you for watching.